Very happy to host you. Let's plan it in a way. And in fact, our Ramdut team comes here and does sleepover for high schoolers. So, they come here, they spend the night here. They come on, I think, Friday evening and leave on Saturday morning. But, they spend the night, high school kids or middle school and high school kids. Most welcome to use the ashram for, such visits. So, I've been told chai is 3:15. Okay, so we'll take a few more questions. Okay, sure. Okay, so we'll take one last question. Sorry, and after that, we will go to Richa ji's session and then break for chai. Okay, so go ahead.
Hari Om Swamiji, Hari Om Brahmacharinis. I had a quick question on, we have children, there are two questions actually. One is, when your child is going through, they're going through high school, they have this big question about, this has been happening where they talk about, really is this, there's science and there is belief. And for science, we always believe that we have proof. There is no proof. So how do you, as a parent, as a teacher, enable that child to kind of have that faith? You guys talked about belief and faith. And
you bring your teenager to me. I will tell him. I will give him the proof.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And number two is for teachers who are handling kids who are in different age groups, especially in language, we have that. And we've been doing this for some years. What would be your inputs on keeping the kids engaged when they are in different, they're coming from different ages? Of course, we try to do activities, but any thoughts or inputs from your side will be very helpful. When they are in different grades, the age group is varied for language classes.
I didn't get you.
For language classes, for language classes, you have different age groups, right? So how to get them more engaged?
Mani can answer. Mani is our language master.
Swamiji, already I was holding the mic here, hoping that at least one person from this side will talk. Nobody asked, and now you're giving me a mic to answer the question. Yeah. So, I think we discussed this, Aruna ji, in the language breakout room. It is a known problem because we cannot avoid children from different age groups because of their proficiency and experience with the language coming into one class. Perhaps what we can do is we can focus on the subject topic we are teaching on a particular day, let's say. I want to take a simple example just for this context. In Tamil, if we are teaching, let's say, seasons today, just have some activities focused on seasons, irrespective of the age group, because they are in this proficiency. For example, if you are teaching level 1 Tamil, it means that all of the children have same proficiency in Tamil, and if you focus on the language part of it, then everybody is going to learn the same way. That is one way we can kind of work around the constraint that we have, I hope.
What you can do is you can always pair up the older kid with a younger kid. And so you have them pair up and you say, this is the lesson. Now I want you to teach it to the younger kid. So because the other older kids will get bored. So you make them assistant teachers.
Hari Om Swamiji and Brahmacharini Jis. My question is, for high schoolers, what daily sadhanas would you suggest that we start inculcating in them?
I would say don't insist. To be safe. And if you are thinking about your teenager, I am telling you, better don't put them on a rigorous drill. they will reject it, they will become anti-religious people. This is what happened to Hare Krishna people in Virginia. They have a place, they got it, it's about 100 acre land, they were all living. And they were very strict, bringing up the children all the time chanting Hare Rama, Hare Krishna and all rituals. Then what happened? The children came out and go to college. They turned completely against. Why? Because of this rigidity. So we have to understand the children, and then slowly, little bit you can add. Small things you can add. Suppose the child is given Gayatri Upadesha, Brahma Upadesha, and to make them do it is you start doing it. That is the best thing. Instead of giving them instruction, do it, and you sit there doing nothing, that will not work. If you want your child to do it, you be an example. Yadyad ajarati shreshtaha tattadeveda rojanaha. Sayat pramanam gurude logattadan vartade. Bhagavan said that. So unless you become an example, they will not do it. So if you want the child to meditate in the morning, you start meditating. And if you want the child to do prayer in the morning, you start praying. And whether they follow it or not, it doesn't matter. You continuously do it. What happens is, those mantras that you chant, it will go into their subconscious. And when they grow up, when they have children, automatically it will come to them. So this is the key. Don't put them on a plan, this is, you should do this. No. You start doing it, you will see the change. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Brahmacharinis. So, the one message for all of you is, all three of them are very, very accessible. If you have any questions, Swamiji responds to it as soon as he sees it, almost. Send an email or send him a WhatsApp message. Swamiji can answer the questions. So, we are blessed that he is very close to us. He lives here. But trust me, you send him an email, you will get a response. So, please feel free to ask Swamiji any questions that you have. Same thing goes with Akalka ji and Shubhani ji as well. So, let's I use it jokingly, but let's take advantage. Okay. All right. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Brahmachari. So, we want to, I know it's kind of a moving target, but we just definitely want to have Dr. Richa Agarwal speak to us, and then we'll go for our tea break. Actually, we can have tea and probably head back home too. So, photo for sure. And debrief. Photo, debrief. But first, Richa ji. So, we're going to, I'd like to introduce Richa ji to you. Please. So, please give her a round of applause. She has come all the way from Washington, D.C. just for us. So, Richa ji is part of, Chinmaya Mission in Washington. Ma'am. Please, I want you to be in the center, yeah. So, she is the outreach coordinator for Chinmaya Mission Washington. She is the Hindu representative in various forums. She works with interfaith groups speaking about Hinduism. She is a panelist. She presents Hinduism to high schools, including training teachers, counselors as part of the religious literacy for educators course. She trains people interested in speaking about Hinduism using the Dharma Ambassador platform, which was developed by HAF and piloted by Chinmaya Mission Centers. She's here today. She's going to talk about Hinduism in today's society. So I'll let her just introduce herself, give a few words, and then I'm going to pull up the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest in this topic. I mean, this is a very important topic. Our children learn a lot of Vedanta when they come here, but can they talk about Hinduism to anybody when they step out of the Chinmaya Mission fold? And many times our children are very hesitant to do that because another Hindu will cut them. Another Hindu will say what they are saying is wrong. And we have issue partly because people don't have the right understanding, and partly because there are many groups that are Hindu in name only, so whose agendas are different. So to counter both of those issues, the best approach is to make our children so solid in what they know and know it as a whole of Hinduism, not only Jnana Yoga, not only Vedanta, but how do all the practices that we do fit together, and why are they important? So I'm going to talk very little. Actually, I want it mainly to be an interactive discussion session. So I'll do the presentation that we normally do, but very, very quickly, because concepts are not new. These are all concepts you already know. It's more a matter of how do you present it to any audience. And sometimes you may only have 5 minutes. How do you present all of Hinduism in 5 minutes? And what I'm going to show is that there is a flow chart. There's a framework you can use to present the key concepts of Hinduism even in 5 minutes. It's possible. So that the key concepts are conveyed, and if it creates more questions and interest, then you can go deeper. So I'll say what is Hindu spiritual journey and what is God in Hinduism first. Then we can discuss on that part before we go to the misconceptions. The two big ones being talked about right now in the society are caste system and swastika. But there are others. We can go into some more of them as the time allows and as the interest is. So please stop me anytime. It's not like I have to get through a class here. So please stop me anytime if something is not clear. And also any questions, we'll have discussion time where you can bring your questions also. So first thing is in the Hindu spiritual journey, well, what's the goal? What's the goal of our journey? Which is everyone wants to be happy. It ties in very nicely with the Chinmaya Mission motto, maximum happiness to maximum people for maximum time. And there's a reason, because doesn't matter what background yours is, doesn't matter you're male, female, child, old, adult, doesn't matter. Everyone wants to be happy. And what Hinduism is saying is that it is indeed possible to be happy always, not just some of the time, but always. But for that, you really need to just realize your true nature. The reason you want to be happy always is because that is your nature. You know you exist. You know that all the time. And you're aware that you exist and you want to be happy. Because that's your true nature. That's why you are looking for happiness always. And that's only possible when you see the same nature or same divinity in everyone. So all the material I'm presenting is actually available on Chinmaya Mission website, the Washington, D.C. website, and there's also some posters outside, so if you're interested, you can get it. So yeah, you can download all this information. Okay, so then the next thing is, how do I see this divinity in everyone? That is my problem, right? I mean, there are people I get along with just fine, but not with everyone. So how do I see this divinity everywhere? And what Hinduism says is, you have to do is make your mind clear and calm. If you have absolute clarity and absolute calmness, this divinity naturally shines through. And in order to make your mind clear and calm, you need meditation. And meditation here is more to to reach the meditative state, not just the practice of meditation, but it requires the practice of meditation to reach the meditative state where you can be absolutely clear and calm. So our goal from being happy always is now to make our minds clear and calm. So for this journey now, obviously we'll start where we are. We are currently in the realm of wanting to earn money and enjoy our lives. And we realize that is possible in the long run only when we do it subject to dharma. So the concept of dharma is brought in at this point. So this is the point where you can say that this is everybody's goal. Everybody is wanting to live a comfortable life, enjoy their lives. And it's not that Hinduism is looking down on it in any way. These are our goals. But we realize that this is possible in a long run. And then you clarify what dharma is. Dharma is anything that sustains. That's the root meaning of it. So if you do the things and the practices that are helpful in getting that, then you are able to live according to your dharma. And again, dharma is contextual. So I'm going very fast on these things because you know it. I'm just saying which are the key points you need to bring out depending on time. So you bring out the point about dharma being contextual over here. And to say that if you're living your dharma, then you have the possibility of sustaining your happiness. And then we say that when we act, we get the results. So that's where the law of karma comes in. So if I'm making the right choices, the results will be more in accordance with what I like, rather than as punishments. But no matter what it is, there is no getting away with something. If you are the doer, you will get results, and the emphasis here is on you. So as long as you are making a choice and acting, you get the results, and that's the law of karma. Okay? And then what you see is that when you are acting, and you are acting more selflessly, you get greater joy. And today morning itself, we heard about seva is love in action. That's part of it also here, selfless service, karma yoga, which brings a different kind of joy. So it's not like I don't get joy for doing things for people I relate with, but I get a different kind of joy when I'm doing selfless service, karma yoga. And then I realize that every action can become karma yoga. It doesn't have to be for somebody or for something else. Every action can become karma yoga, and it brings a totally different kind of joy. So my goal is being happy always. Here I'm now starting to connect with bigger and bigger things, beyond my family, to my community, nation, world, cosmos. So your circle is becoming bigger and bigger when you're doing things with attitude of karma yoga. So that's the starting point and purification of mind. But then the genius thing about Hinduism is that it recognizes people have different temperaments and different things are suitable for different people. So that recognition exists, and that's why we have many paths that are suggested that you can choose from. So the path of knowledge, that's Jnana Yoga, where you study and practice scriptures. And this is not academic study. You have to put the scriptures in practice. Just now what we heard. How do we do it? You have to practice them to actually get others to follow, for example, or for your own things. Then this requires a fair bit of intellectual bent. You have to study, you have to think about it, get your questions clarified, and then put them in practice. So with that, then you get the clarity that you need. Why am I doing anything? Who am I? Those kinds of things get clarified in this path. But if you don't like to study, then this path may not work for you. Then what do I do? Then maybe the path of meditation called Raj Yoga might be the appropriate one, where if you are more disciplined type of person, you can lead a disciplined lifestyle, then maybe this path of meditation is appropriate for you. And here I always clarify that meditation and yoga is not just the physical exercises and breathing exercises. You go through the 8 steps, the 8 limbs, leading a disciplined lifestyle so you can do the practices, and then the more deeper practices of meditation of pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, and samadhi come in play. So emphasis is on, it's not just a quick fix. It's not something you do for half an hour as an exercise and be done with it. It's a full practice. So what happens if I don't like studying and I don't want to lead a very disciplined lifestyle? Then Hinduism has the path of devotion or bhakti yoga, where all you are asked to do is love and surrender to God. But this is not surrender only at the time of problems. This is complete surrender all the time. Yeah? So if you truly can surrender, then anything that comes to you is not an issue for you. Anything that comes to you, and you can deal with it with a clear and calm mind, because you say that this is what the Ishvara has put me, or this is what the God has put me in, so that's best for me. So that's the complete surrender. Then the next thing there is really that these are not mutually exclusive paths. It's not like if I do one thing, I cannot do something else. These are all, one of them will be your primary path based on your temperament, but other ones will be helpful for you also. And your path will evolve over time. Because once, for example, you're following path of knowledge and you realize the awesomeness of everything, then devotion automatically comes in. And some of the meditative practices may be helpful for you to get that kind of vision. So ultimately, all of them lead to clear and calm mind. So this is the framework, and so putting it all together, our goal was being happy by realizing the divinity in all. We start out by doing the things we are doing right now, develop a little bit of clarity by having and figuring out that selfless service helps also in the process, and then choosing a path according to our inclination, ultimately all of them leading to clear and calm mind. So that becomes a flow chart in a way in which all the key concepts are present, and one can relate to this flow chart to say what will be the questions. In addition, you can look at it as guiding principles that we have already inbuilt in our system, which is that the goal is inclusive of everyone. There is no one that's out of the framework. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone, and we say that anyone can achieve this given the things that we have, given the practices that we have. So it's inclusive of everyone. And it's accessible to everyone. And there's no partiality of any kind. No matter where you are in your journey right now, you can make progress. And there are practices available and that will help you in reaching the goal. Then the recognition of diversity is there too. In terms of Varna, the temperaments are codified as Varna. And equitable means are present too. So practices that are appropriate for you to reach the goal are all present in Hinduism. So with this framework, you can answer just about any question that can come your way, except what is God. We haven't defined God yet. So, and that also creates a lot of issues. So to make it complete, in addition to the flow chart, we need a very clear understanding of what is God in Hinduism. So the one that we are most familiar with is one transcendental divinity called Brahman, or pure consciousness, or spirit. So this is where it's nirguna, right? This is no qualities, no forms at the Brahman level. But then Brahman becomes immanent in creation as Ishvara, as its source, called Ishvara, where it is still no form, but has qualities now of all-knowing, all-powerful, those kinds of things. But both of these are still very abstract for people to really wrap their minds around, and are not sufficient for putting a lot of practices in play. So we can worship, because those are still formless. For worship, we need something that's a little more concrete that we can relate to. So that's where the murtis comes in. So it's not as if the murtis are different from Brahman, or they're different from Ishvara. These are aids we are using that for worshipping. So the same Brahman is the one we are worshipping, but in many names and forms called murtis, female, human, animal form, or multiple ones altogether, because all of them are to invoke devotion. Okay? And they don't have to be human forms only. Natural resources are perfect for worshipping as well. And many symbols we use because they also carry significant meaning. So this is our framework for the God in Hinduism, based on what your practices are, what you are trying to understand. You may go from one to the other, but it's not like they are different things. So, and that's where some of the questions come in. Is Hinduism polytheistic? So now let's go in the questions in terms of what are the common questions that get asked, and whether we can answer them using the flowchart that I showed and the understanding of God. So I'll go back to the flowchart, just because that's where everything is hooked in. So I'll give examples of 2-3 questions that get commonly asked when you go to a high school. And we'll see whether the flowchart is sufficient for us to answer those questions or not. And then I'll open it up for you to ask for a little bit what some of the questions you hear about Hinduism from others. And then we'll go into the second part of misconceptions about Hinduism. So for example, the most common question I get asked when we present this is, so what will I reincarnate in? Can I get, do non-Hindus get reincarnated? Do plants have the same divinity? Those kinds of things. And for all of them, so for the reincarnation, our clear hook is law of karma, right? So as long as you have results, you will be reincarnated. It doesn't say only Hindus will be reincarnated. Anyone will be reincarnated, and what form will be depending on what your resources are. So that's one of the questions where we can point to law of karma and say, that's where the answer is. So another one might be, what about suicide? Again, the same thing. The suicide is just a flip of the same thing. You will be reincarnated. You are not getting rid of your problems if somebody commits suicide. You still have to get the results. You'll have to come back to get the results. So both of those get into this part. Then another question that comes up that's more to deal with the current issues might be, what does Hinduism say about LGBT? Does it say anything about it at all? Or if it does, what does it say? Or other social things. And here again, you can use the divinity concept. Everything is divine. Everything and every being is divine. We don't have specific list of do's and a list of don'ts. Everyone on their own has to see what feels right for them, what is for them. The whole spectrum is recognized. There is mention of third gender in our scriptures also. So all of these things are again relating to what your true nature is. And is your true nature your body? Is it only body? Are we even talking about body at any point? Is gender mentioned anywhere in this flowchart? No. We are only talking about mind. At the mental level, where do you recognize? Whatever you recognize and feel, that is right for you. So yes, our scriptures do have a guidance on it. Again, for us, everything is a guidance, and choice is left to us on how we act and get the results accordingly. Another one is, can you practice your religion now easily, or does it create problems? So those are more along the personal questions about your own practice. And there the answer will differ from person to person. For me, for example, for the path of knowledge, I actually don't find it problematic at all to practice what I need to practice in our current society. But somebody who's very ritualistic and wants to do all the pujas on the right day at the right time, they may find it very hard to do Diwali puja on the day of the Diwali if they cannot take time off. And that's partly why a lot of places are trying to get Diwali declared as holiday as more and more Hindus become available or are present in communities. So different school systems will have different rules for what they will give as holiday. But with proper advocacy, that can happen. So those are kind of three types of questions where we can talk about how the flowchart can help us answer those questions. So really, if our students, when they get out of Bala Vihara, or even during Bala Vihara, when they interact with other children or other adults, and they are asked these questions, if this is very clear in their mind, they can see where everything in Hinduism fits together and how everything relates to each other. Our children hesitate because they may not know about any different practice, and it's perfectly fine. We can say that we are not doing those practices ourselves, doesn't mean those practices are not valid. And that's partly why Hindus have no problem going to any other place of worship, because for us, that's a valid path too. And I mean, for example, even I was approached by Hare Krishna to say that maybe that path will work better for you. I said, no, what I have works for me, and I don't have any problem with your path, but that's not my path. And that was perfectly fine for the people who suggested that, to say that. So again, it's more a matter of saying, we don't need to counter anybody for what they are saying, but if we are clear what we have within our system, that helps a lot. So I'll open it up right now if you would like to ask a few questions about Hindu spiritual journey and God in Hinduism, questions related to that that you may have heard from your children or your students, to see that you found as hard to answer, to see whether our flowchart helps us answer those questions or not. Yeah.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
The question I have that should we be teaching it as Hinduism or Sanatani? I mean, because like this is one of the things which always puts me into confusion.
Yeah. So that is a. So the thing is, for us, conveying information is more important than labels. Yes, correctly speaking, this is Sanatana Dharma. But if you go outside and say, I want to talk about Sanatana Dharma, they have no clue what you're talking about. And even worse, if you say Hinduism is not the correct term, or worse, I have heard people say Hinduism is not a religion, it's a way of life. That is conveying very wrong information, because then they think Hinduism is not a religion. We have to say Hinduism is a religion which is practiced as a way of life. So if we are not careful in how we word it, it gives a totally different impression to somebody who's actually pretty blank about it. It didn't come with preconceived notions. He's not one of the ones with agenda. But as soon as you say Hinduism is not a religion, they think we are talking about, we don't know, we have no clue what's going on. And the same thing with Sanatana Dharma. So when I do this presentation and say this knowledge is eternal, those kinds of things, then at that point I bring up that the correct name for Hinduism is really Sanatana Dharma, and it's not an ism because there's no single founder, no single book. So you say why it's not an ism at that point. But if you start off by saying, no, I'm not going to talk about Hinduism, I'm only going to talk about Sanatana Dharma, you've lost the audience totally at that point itself, because they don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, you bring those points, but don't make it a key issue in the beginning itself. Yeah.
So, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So in all these presentations, you are not brought in anything about the Vedas, Upanishads. How do they fit into this framework?
Yeah, so that comes in. I didn't give a full 30-minute presentation here. So when you say that this knowledge is revealed knowledge, in the beginning, that divinity was revealed, this knowledge that everything is one is a revealed knowledge. At the very beginning, you say no founder, the information was compiled in Vedas, it's not authored. So that comes in actually in the very first slide of when you say the same divinity and all. Yeah, so this is a very, very abbreviated presentation. Yeah.
So thank you, Richa ji, for the presentation. Where does rituals and other superstitions all fit in? Because the other pushback that we would get is so much of kind of meaningless unless you really, when you kind of really go in, you know the value, but superficially there's so much of practices and all that. Where does that fit into this framework?
So for a lot of the religious practices, we point to the path of devotion, but superstition is a totally different thing. And that's where the blind faith versus Shraddha and all of those concepts come in, to say that if somebody is doing it blindly, unless they have total surrender, it doesn't work. So you bring in whether you are doing it knowing with understanding or totally blindly. You doing it totally blindly is also fine as long as you have 100% surrender, but with the way our minds are right now, that doesn't happen. So it doesn't work for us anymore. It may have worked 50 generations back. It doesn't work anymore. So that's what we have to say is superstition comes in only when you do things repetitively, mechanically, without understanding, and that's not helpful in our journey at all.
Hari Om, thank you. It's a good presentation. I teach the high school classes, and I'm familiar with the content, but I would interested in knowing, since you have presented this in many different groups, can you comment on which concepts are most misunderstood, or where the audience say, oh, we had no clue and we learned a lot? Which of this is?
So that definitely varies from audience to audience. But a lot of people have a question about reincarnation. That is definitely one of the ones you almost always get questions on. And the flavors might be different. The non-Hindus and plants was one version. The other one, and there it leads to, well, then how do you get out of it? That also. So reincarnation is definitely something people have heard about. And then karma. The word karma is misunderstood because they've heard it more as a slang, basically, at this point. And then this idea that everything is divine. So when we say thing and being, the idea that humans are supreme is very hard for them to get around, that we are actually not that supreme. I mean, plants can live perfectly well without us. We can't without plants. So the idea that we are not on the top of the food chain is very, very hard for them to wrap their heads around. Then the other one that they almost always ask is, oh, I thought yoga was what I've seen. The idea that yoga is actually not a yoga. Oh, yoga means union and connecting with divine. So that's another one that's highly misunderstood. So those are some of the key ones. Yeah?
Hariom. I have a quick question. I teach 4th graders, 5th graders, and up to 8th grades. So when we teach them either Ramayana or Mahabharata, according to our scriptures, they are Itihasas, Puranas.
Yes.
But most of the time, the household setup is taught as mythology. Oh, it happened as a myth.
Yeah.
So how do we get the kids travel from a mythological background to a Itihasic and a Puranic background and say, okay, some of these things actually have happened. This happened in the land of Bharata.
Yeah.
So that's where I think most of even the adults get lost. Sometimes even I get lost.
Yeah.
How do we, how does we can use this framework to fit, answer some of those type of questions?
Yeah, so for that, again, first of all, we have to be clear with what are Itihasas and what are Puranas and what's getting labeled as what. So Ramayana and Mahabharatas are Itihasas for us. And not just for us, they are Itihasa, because one thing you can say is there is a lot of evidence of things that are described for which we have actually physical proof now. So there is, and plus there is nothing that we have that contradicts anything that's written over there. So all those things about say a mantra and a barn will come for you, Brahmastra will come to you. So we have no proof that that cannot happen. So, and one example given there is, in a class, if you say, for let's say some kids have, the children have never seen an iPhone, and one child is asked to describe an iPhone, that will look like a mythology to others. For somebody who, I mean, let's say 50 years back, if somebody said, your computer is going to be in your phone, it will sound like mythology to everybody at that time. So that's a common example we can give to say that just because it looks so advanced or bizarre to us right now doesn't mean it couldn't have happened. So this is what Sambhav Pramana is in a way, right? We have no contradiction to it, so why call it mythology? Regarding Puranas, some of them are supposed to be symbolic and have many, many layers of understanding. So when we teach it as a story, that is the intent. We are making it more what should I say, more oriented towards the audience there who would like a story. But doesn't mean that you end at story. As you graduate, you find the deeper meanings in the same story also and the morals behind it. So there are many levels to it is the way. So I show it as more, just like God can have many levels, I need stories at the level of Murti, but more subtle meanings come at other levels also. Mm-hmm.
One of the favorite criticism against Hinduism is caste. Nobody knows Varna because it's not public. I mean, although Sri Krishna has said it in Bhagavad Gita, and for our kids, when we teach them, or our own kids, they dissociate themselves from the concept of caste. They don't know caste, but they know things happen in India, and they get faced the question as to what happens in India if it's happening in such a big country. They are distancing themselves from
So
India.
I'll talk about caste system and swastika specifically in a bit, but let's see if we can, if there are no more questions, I can go to that.
I have one question. How do you help the kids relate as well as compare Hinduism with other religions?
So, okay, so that's where Shubhaniji's answer that she gave earlier comes in. I don't talk about other religions because that's not my field of study. I don't have knowledge to compare, but I am perfectly willing to sit with someone else who has that knowledge and say for any questions. For example, in panels, what happens is when we go on panels, there'll be a set of questions that get asked, and each panelist has to answer based on their understanding of their religion. So we are not sitting and comparing, but we are answering from our perspective. And that's where we'll have to stop, because if I open mouth about a religion I know very little about, that is going to definitely 99% chance it's going to be wrong. And just like we don't want others to talk about Hinduism, there's no reason we should be talking about others. At the same time, I'm part of Interfaith Women's Book Club. As part of the book club, we have gone to each other's places of worship, and they have explained from their perspective what certain answer to certain questions are in their religion. So I am going to say, if you are really interested, this is the person you can talk to, and I know they're a reasonable person to talk to. But I would not answer questions about what does this thing say about another religion. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm the last guy. So first of all, Dr. Richa, this is a great job you're doing.
Just say Richa. I mean, my doctorate is in computer science, not this.
You're still a doctor. And you're introduced such. So anyway. So, and it's great that there's an association with HAF and stuff like that, right? I have a general theme in which probably I'll reach out to you separately. There are two umbrellas under which this discussion about Hinduism, Sanatana culture happens. One is with audience like this, who are very convinced about the philosophies, and they're fine, right? And if there are swamis and great knowledgeable people here, we learn from them, right? And then there is other realm, which is the outside realm, not including the people from high school. We have Rutgers professors here and great names, you know, right? I don't want to mention them, but they have their own viewpoints, and they are very painful towards us.
Actually, it's not their viewpoints, they have their own agendas.
I understand, right? I understand. But that's one point. And I just wanted to read out something here for you, because so their viewpoints are more effective in the contemporary culture than us. So we have this narrow view, come to Chinmaya, we do one thing, we go to work, we have another view. We are not able to reconcile these two worlds. Especially the point that you just made, I want to read out. This is a Supreme Court judgment, right? This is about, when we think of the Hindu religion, we find it difficult, if not impossible, to define Hindu religion, or even adequately describe it. They don't want me defining Hindu culture. So, okay. Unlike other religions in the world, the Hindu religion does not claim any one prophet. It does not worship any one god. It does not subscribe to any one dogma. It does not believe in one philosophical concept. It does not follow any set of religious rites or performances. In fact, it does not appear to satisfy the narrow traditional features of any religion or creed. It may be broadly described as a way of life and nothing more. This is Supreme Court judgment. Yes. So how can we go about, especially when you made a point that it's not of life?
Yeah, so this is where the ism thing comes in. You are trying to fit a round peg in square hole kind of thing, or square peg in round hole, whichever way you go. So this is where the Dharma Ambassador training comes in, which says that why should we define it based on the isms that others are used to? And that's where the clarification comes in, is yes, you need those things when you're evolving. You need one book, or you need something simplified for you, but this one has been around for so long. So you bring the history in here to say, when things have been around for very long and it has survived, there is value in it. And the parts that work for everyone, again, you bring in these guiding principles at that point to say it's inclusive of everyone, not for people who are willing to subscribe to one particular list of do's and don'ts. So yes, Supreme Court can say what they want to say, and they are again saying for specific reasons, right? I mean, they have to cater to what they are seeing and what they can describe. But I mean, this is where people will make a change when when we stop being passive. Then we can, I mean, till we stay passive, anyone can go and say anything about us, and there's no one to counter. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times in big gatherings I am the only Hindu. And why is that the case when there's so many of us around here now? The reason is people are not willing to open their mouths. And because you open your mouth, and as soon as you stray from this chart, you are likely to get in trouble. And as humans, we do make errors, and we will pay for it from time to time. I can tell you a story, but maybe we can do that offline, of how you can get in trouble. But if you stay to this, there is no trouble whatsoever. So, but anytime you start explaining from your, giving examples from your life, and if you don't know the full context, you can get in trouble. So my philosophy now is stick to only what we have here, and bring examples as needed. Don't get overboard and like start enjoying it too much and get in trouble that way. Yeah. Yes.
That if our students do want to volunteer with, they can go ahead and sign up, like a list of, here are.
So I will not give a list, because that list will change the minute I give you the list. But what I'll give you is a guiding principle, which is, can you find out, first of all, on their website, who are their board of directors and what their background is, and if at all possible, where their funding is from. So if you are satisfied with those two, you are okay. If you are not satisfied with either one of those two, you have other places you can volunteer at. And I'm perfectly happy to give you names of ones that so far in my experience have worked well. HAF was already mentioned, Hindu American Foundation. Then Coalitions of Hindus of North America. That is another one that's very active and coming up. So those two are the big ones, and there is no reason for us to not interact with interfaith groups. Interfaith groups have been the most learning experience for me in terms of getting exposure to people who otherwise would not have the chance to learn about Hinduism, and these are all open-minded people who are coming to these interfaith groups. So we are lucky to have something called Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington, but there are such groups available everywhere. So that's another set of groups you can work with. But in terms of volunteering, I mean, there's no limit on volunteering in mission itself, for example. And one thing, when the previous session was going on, at least at Chinmaya Mission in Washington area, we've been, and youth who are involved, in providing one meal to homeless shelter for past 20 years, every week. So one whole meal, and at least in past couple of years, they were cooking the meal themselves too. So there are places like that you can collaborate with, where youth can get involved. And for a short time, they were able to serve the meals also, but otherwise they were doing drop-offs. So that's one activity also where they can do it. But in terms of organizations, board of directors, who are the people and where their funding is. Is it a non-profit or not? Okay, so let's go to the next part, which is the common misconceptions. All of you know about murtis. So Varna was mentioned. So what is Varna? Varna is the recognition of diversity in ourselves, the recognition of diversity in temperaments. And this is part of our Hindu scriptures, where it says that people have 4 different temperaments. You all know about Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. I'm not going to go there. But what I am going to say is, nowhere in our scriptures does it say that there is a hierarchy of those 4. And it also is there that all are equally important, and as long as people act as per their temperament, they do the best. Yeah? So for any well-functioning society, all 4 are needed. And there is no hierarchy. This is what's there in our scriptures. But the 3 commonly cited verses to say that the caste system comes from Hinduism are the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya Maya system. So here the word to recognize again is 4-fold Varna. Varna is the one that's mentioned. Okay? And it's based on guna and karma. So again, you all know it, but I'm just citing the 3 verses. The second one is the Rigvedic Purusha Sukta, where somehow there is no picture anyone knows of that to exist in Rigveda, but the Brahmana is mouth, arms are Kshatriya, thighs are Vaishya, and feet are Shudra, got laid over Purusha as if there is a hierarchy there from top to bottom. The same person lies on the floor horizontal too. I mean, he's not always standing, right? So where is the hierarchy there? And again, that's a cooked up picture that actually even I myself was using for a long time to explain caste system, that this is what they say, until I realized that there is no such picture in Rig Veda, so why should I use that picture? And then the Manusmriti one, that Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya are twice born, and Shudra is once born, where it's referring to education. So again, and that there is no fifth. So again, the mention is that the classification is based on guna, karma, or education, but nowhere is the hierarchy mentioned. So where did hierarchy come from? So the hierarchy is really a societal structure. It's not a scriptural thing at all. So even in ancient societies and all current societies, take any corporation, there is a hierarchy in any corporation. Even, I mean, you cannot, school system, take any system, and every system has a hierarchy. So that's what it exists in society. And jati system, where there is a family lineage, which family you are born in, there might be certain customs you do according to that. But recognize that there are thousands of those, not 4. So this is, again, a societal grouping. But the problem happened when the scriptures were distorted, and the 4 varnas were put and given name of, instead of jatis, jatis can have hierarchy in them. But the problem was that the name of varnas got used in this pyramid structure with Dalits put on the bottom. And that's where the caste system comes from, when the social groups based on jati are in practice are given names of varna. So this is what the issue is, that you have varnas being used and related as though the caste system is coming from Hindu scriptures. So what we have to do is never use the word caste for varna. When we mean varna, use varna. Don't think that caste is same as varna, or try to explain that caste could be varna, caste could be jati, caste could be hierarchy. No, we don't want to go there. We want to use varna for varna, jati for jati, and caste for caste, for the oppressive system. The reason we have to be careful about these words now is because right now in US, caste is being asked to be added in laws as a protected category. So some of you may be following the news that's happening in California, where there was a lot of pushback from Hindu community to say you cannot add caste as a protected category because of the strong association with Hindus. And it's a problem they have created for themselves in a way, because if it was said as a total social problem of hierarchy, it would be one thing, but because of it's targeting Hindus now at this point, it's not okay. And the claims, the reason they are asking that the caste be added is because the claim is it's prevalent outside India also. It has come to US with all the techies that came. The Tamil Brahmin techies who are reaching are oppressing other people. And that, because the hierarchies are, and it's practiced by others, in India it's practiced by everyone, not just Hindus, but this association creates a problem. And another issue is that if this becomes a protected category, there is no way of defining caste really. The social markers one could potentially use are all already covered in legislation. So at the end right now, the way it's happening in California, caste will be a subcategory within ancestry. So it will not be a category on its own, which helps. It's not the ideal, but it's better than having it clearly labeled as for South Asians, the caste system, as if we need separate laws to keep Hindus in line. So that's one issue. And the groups that are asking for it are happy to provide consultations at high fees to these corporations to make sure that they can tell you what to do in case there are lawsuits. Also, the claim for that it's prevalent outside US is that there was one survey done by Equality Labs, that's one group I will name, which was claiming and pushing for this and saying that we have done our survey and it shows that caste is prevalent in a very high percentage. And that particular survey has been discredited very thoroughly by now, and additional much larger scientific surveys have shown no widespread caste discrimination. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. They also found about 3% prevalence rather than 90-odd% claimed earlier. So it is not widespread, but if there are cases, we have to be willing to say that that does need to be taken care of. And the third, the same thing goes in India. Yes, it needs to be tackled in India. But the reason it's important for us to know about it is that the next step that was already mentioned is, when you say that caste comes from Hinduism, the corollary of that becomes abolishing caste requires dismantling Hinduism. And that's where dismantling Hinduism conferences, global Hindutva and whatnot you hear. That's all related to this business of wanting to show that there are oppressive practices coming from Hinduism, and really to get rid of that, you need to dismantle Hinduism. Why are these people doing it? I'm not going to get into this. Snakes in Ganga is one of the books written by Infinity Foundation. You may have your views about Rajiv Malhotra. His approach is not something I personally endorse at all, but his research is excellent. So if you're looking for information, there's no reason we cannot use his resource. If there are Kshatriyas in you who align with his approach, please go ahead, but that's not me. And again, it's your choice at that point, but from the education perspective, there's no reason we cannot use his material to educate ourselves for what are the forces that are wanting to dismantle Hindus. And then stereotyping is another issue, big issue for our children, and this is where the question that was asked that people start leaving is because when they're not clear that caste system is not coming from Hinduism, once they say it is from Hinduism, they cannot relate to it anymore. They cannot call themselves Hindu in open public because then they get bullied. And once you lose the pride, you are an easy prey for brainwashing. There's no other word. You get trolled on websites. And part of that becomes all this delinking of Hindu practices. Things that are useful, yoga, meditation, are not called as Hindu practices anywhere because they're trying to delink the useful practices. I mean, this is one of the memes, right? If we keep talking about how great Hinduism was in the past, so I wish I lived in the past. So as if Hinduism is not great now. So that's the implication here, that we have to say that Hinduism is still very, very relevant and how it's useful for us. And there are other places like Hindu University of America that has just come out with what they call a coffee table book on showing how Hinduism is relevant in America now. This meme about sati practice. I mean, who's heard of the sati now happening? But this is what goes on in social media. SpongeBob SquarePants is talking about sati. And then this is the most weird one where Om is being shown on a Nazi flag. It's been opted as a of the Nazi symbol. So all these things are things we need to be aware of, that this is actually happening, and why it matters, and why our children are hesitant to call themselves Hindu outside of our protected boundaries. But our job is to make sure that they know what Hinduism is as a whole and are able to speak about it. And this is the last one I'm going to very quickly go through. You know already what swastika is and how relevant it is for Hinduism. What may not is that the symbol on the Nazi flag actually was never called swastika by Hitler. What he called it was Hakenkreuz. In his speech, he used the word Hakenkreuz, and his inspiration was the monastery he attended as a child in the Benedictine monastery, where he saw this symbol growing up. In fact, there's a lot of work done by Dr. T.K. Nagagaki, who is actually in New York, whose book, Buddhist Swastika and Hitler's Cross, goes in the history, and it talks about how the initial drawings of the flag had Hakenkreuz on it, with the hooked arms. And only later it was straightened out. And in fact, the German Christian flag also had the straight arm version of the symbol in it. So again, for us to say that swastika is a hate symbol, or the bills that are going around trying to ban swastika, we have to say that, yes, you must ban Nazi symbol, but don't ban swastika without context. I mean, you allow for the context it's relevant in. Yes, Hakenkreuz is a lot of words for a lot of people to speak, but you can say that if it's being used, if the symbol is being used as an anti-Semitic symbol, that's where it's a hate symbol. But in my temple, in my house, it's an honored, sacred symbol. So leave for that education opportunity to say that what's what. And really speaking, ban the Nazi symbol, not the swastika. So when the bills come out saying Confederate flag, swastika, news, I mean, you can see what the impression the children will have if they see swastika in our altar. It's not going to be a positive image. So we want to say Confederate flag, Nazi symbol, news. So that's another educational purpose. So these are the two main misconceptions, and we can talk about others like idol worship or Aryan invasion if people are interested, or any others. So yeah, I'll again open it up for questions.
So the different forms of Hindu gods, right, like Ganesha with elephant head, Shiva wearing snakes, all. So those kind of things really require a little bit of reading and having a bit of a history. But for somebody like a high schooler or a middle schooler, if we have to give like a 2-minute elevator speech, if you will, to say that this is what it is, how would we say that to the kids?
So I say is all the murtis have a lot of symbolic meaning, and if you're interested in it, then you need to read those stories and the meaning behind that. But on the face value, you cannot say anything. I mean, you cannot describe all the murtis in 2 minutes. But the simple thing is, all of them have significance. For example, the Ganesh one I have, everything on it has symbolism for us. And the other one, maybe Shivani ji and Swami ji can say more about this than me, but all of them have meaning, and all of them, when you know what they mean, invoke the devotion, and those are the qualities we are trying to imbibe. And you can give one example maybe, or whichever deity they're talking about. If you know, then you can say, this is what I know of it. And if you don't know, you can say, I don't know about that particular deity. This is the deity I know and what the story is.
One last question.
What's the best way to approach schools? If we have kids who are, of school age, what's the best way to approach them?
Excellent question. This has been our battle, and why it's after 10 years also there's only a few, other than this religious literacy for educators course where we do get exposure. A lot of other groups have a full-time paid education director whose only job full-time is to approach schools and say what they can offer. For us, practically speaking, the best thing is if our parents of children in 6th grade, in Maryland at least, in most places, figure out when is world religion is being taught. And if a child in the class says, I know of someone who can give a proper understanding, a proper presentation, then the teacher is at least obliged to invite you to talk to you. We tried to do that at our center. Only one person was willing to kind of go take the next step of actually contacting. So our parents were not willing because I don't know whether they didn't feel confident or what, but they did not want to approach the teachers. But that is the best way for the students in the class to say to teacher, I know somebody who can talk about Hinduism. Would you like to talk to them? And then the teacher can talk to whoever your presenter is, figure out what they're going to talk and all. So that is one way. The other way has been through these interfaith groups, because just by chance they may be in the audience, and if you do a half decent job, they have enough questions about Hinduism that they will come and talk to you. So the more you put yourself out in different places, you have a better chance of hitting some targets. But you cannot go and say, I want to talk, because they are very hesitant. They don't know what you're going to say, how fanatic you're going to be. And one thing we do in Dharma Ambassador training is to say what is allowed in First Amendment and what is not. We cannot preach Hinduism. We cannot preach about religion. We cannot teach religion. We can teach about religion. There's a fine line. It may sound very similar, but those things we have to say that we have this training. We know what is acceptable or not. For example, I cannot go in a school and say, let's chant Om. That will violate First Amendment. So what is allowed, what's not is important. Yes. Yes, sorry. So let me see if I can pull it up and just quickly in 1 minute show you. Ramji, I might click too much of yours out. Okay, here, yeah, this one has it. Oh, actually, since I'm on it, so this is actually a blog I wrote on Interfaith website, Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington, about book clubs and bridging divides. So this is where I talked about swastika to an interfaith web page. Basically, this is interfaith website. And it's okay to talk about swastika in different contexts. So again, I found an opportunity. They asked me, would you like to write something for our blog? And I said, yes, this is a perfect opportunity for me to talk about swastika. So again, you bring the topics that you are important when you are connected with these groups, when they trust you that you will do a decent job. So the website I mentioned is actually Chinmaya Mission Washington Regional Center. I have some posters outside that are free for you to take. And in the bottom is also the website given, cmwrc.chinmayadc.org/interfaith. So this is our interfaith tab on our website, the Chinmaya Mission Washington Regional website. So where we have this Hindu spiritual journey. So basically this has 4 tabs. The resources tab is the first one, where we have this Hindu spiritual journey, 3 books about understanding Hinduism and Seeker's Companion. So understanding Hinduism is also outside if you would like to get a copy. And then we have 4 posters. One is this same Hindu spiritual journey and God in Hinduism that I talked about today. And then symbolism in Hinduism, symbols, our religion, our festivals, and the caste system. And there's a short 5 to 10 minute presentation also linked for each one. And then the educational resources in swastika is there as well, which has the swastika slide. So this is the website I was saying, which has all the information. And if you go under Hinduism 101 tab, then each of the 19 chapters in understanding Hinduism is broken out over here. And we have for each chapter, the chapter itself, which is a 2-3 page chapter, then the questions from the Q&A book, and also just a couple of key highlights from each one. And a video that we spent a fair amount of time vetting to say that if it's at least presentable about each one. Yeah, and then there are, so this is the form we use. If somebody wants to request a speaker, they can fill it out and request somebody to come and speak. And some past events, which will give you a flavor of the kinds of things we've done. So one of them, for example, is Unity Walk, where we arranged with other places of worship nearby to go visit each other's places. Okay. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Wasn't that amazing? Lots of questions were answered in my mind at least. Swamiji, if you can stay, Swamiji will just give you some. So, thanks, Dr. Richa Agarwal. Please. Small token of appreciation from Swamiji. Thank you so much. So another round of applause for Dr. Richa. She's going to be talking to our youngsters tomorrow. We have a youth social event, so she's going to be speaking in that as well. There it is going to be a more open format. They're going to just ask questions and she's going to answer. Okay, so all the tall men, stand up. And please come up here, last line. We're going to take photo now. Nobody leave. Anandi. Hold on. all the tall men are going to be standing. The not so tall men, please grab chairs and come up. We're going to make the second row. The women next row, but men bring two chairs. You don't mind for the women as well. 3 chairs for Swamiji here. 1 row is going to sit on this and 1 row standing here. Let's do this really quickly so that we can get a nice picture. Yeah, you're going to sit there? No. The men will sit. 1 row of men, 1 row of women next to you. Yeah, I think we are good. No more chairs, we are good. Some sit here, some down. Okay, all the men stand in the back, tall men. Next row, no more chairs, we are good with chairs. Thank you. Okay, ladies, we need some ladies to sit here in this row. This row, we need some ladies. Go sit. Go. Go forward. All right, ladies, please sit down here as well. Yeah, men, go sit in the chair. Can we request all the volunteers who are in the kitchen also to come? Baki log niche. So this is the cutoff. Anyone this side will not be in the picture. This. So sit down, find a place. Yeah. There are a few chairs up there. The 3 of you can sit down there on the chairs. Yes. This is the cutoff. I don't know whether that. I think he said. Yeah, you can sit here. Okay. Shankarji, is this okay? Doctor, abhi chalo, go ahead. I can't tell you how proud I am of you guys. This is really good. Fast. Come.
Timer is on. Shankar.
Run. One more time.
Good. Thank you.
No, one more.
This one is going to be the crazy picture. Whatever crazy pose you can. Okay, why don't we all lift our hands up? To make it different, no? Okay, hold hands. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so we have two activities left. One is the debrief, and the second is we have some instructions that we want to give you before you leave. And then, of course, you prasadam from Swamiji. And we are going to go for tea now and meet back here at 4:15 promptly, so that we can let you all go home at 4:30. Yeah, please put the chairs back as you go. Okay, if some of you want to want a Venmo account for donations, it is at Chinmaya-Vrindavan. And as you go, if hopefully all of you are staying back, please recycle your or put your lanyards and name tag in a bag, brown bag out there.
So I have. Sending an email. It's going to have. We should ask Dr. Agarwal if she wouldn't mind sharing her presentation as well. Okay. Because I think they'll be happy for it. So we can get Shivaniji's opening presentation, then her class presentation, my class presentation.
Okay.
Dr. Agarwal's, then some major links we send for teachers portal.
So I have this teacher portal. Okay, so we'll do speed debrief. I mean, if all groups ask me, when are we talking? But they found a leader and they want to speak. But anyway, we'll take a poll. We'll take a poll. Okay. We'll keep it at this. If there are enough people, otherwise we'll just wind up and just say thank you. Let's go have chai first. Hari Om. We lost a lot of people. So how many debrief leaders are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 13. I didn't hear the joke, but I'm sure that was a good joke. Okay. So, looks like we don't have everyone that can debrief, but is there at least one person from each group, hopefully? Let's go by grade. Sishu Vihar. Okay. Kindergarten. Okay. First grade. Gayab. Okay. Second, your first grade? Okay. Second grade. Okay. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Sixth grade. Okay. Oh, you're there. Okay. Seventh grade. Okay, you're there. Eighth. Okay. Ninth. High school. JCHIC. Okay, everyone is here. An adult study group. And our coordinators group. Okay. Language class. Language. That's our biggest Bala Vihara group, by the way. Huh? Alright, so we'll do this. 1 minute each. Real quick, guys. And after that, we have some instructions from Akalkaji. Not instructions, it's basically resources, upcoming activities, all of that you should know. And then we'll wind up. After that, we will do Namaskaram to Swamiji here. You will get a nice Prasada Pustika. And then we are heading home. Alright? No, just mention it. It's fine. It's relevant to your group. Doesn't matter if it is repetition also. Okay. So we will start with language class first. Since I forgot language class, come on. Yes, come up. So I'm going to keep a timer 1 minute because 5 o'clock at least we should wind up. We said 4:15. Yeah. Next is adult study group. Then JCHIC, and then we go all the way down to Shivya. You can line up.
Hari Om, this is for the language group. The question was, first one was about 5 best practices in your experience. Our team, of course, take all of these with one thing that our group wanted to insist is that take it with a pinch of salt, make sure that it works for your team. This is from what our experiences are. Number 1 for best practices, sending reminders for class on the previous day. This is basically from a before the class activity. That has helped a lot to kind of remind them on the homework or just remind them about the class so they are getting ready. During class activities, we talked about immersive activities. An example would be a microgreen project. There were pretty cool projects that some of the language groups came up with, microgreen recipes. Number 3 is recognition and inclusivity. So this kind of relates back to what Shubhani ji had been talking about, how you make it very inclusive, warm, and an atmosphere of community. So example was circle time, where they talk about what happened the week. Number 4 is promoting your native culture and activities. So for example, if there's Diwali, do activities connected to that in your language sessions. Number 5 is using technical tools to enable you from after class, for example, sending updates, whether it's prepping for the classes, having your lesson plans, using technology in that way. So this is from best practices. From the next question was about how kids, best engagement ideas for kids and teenagers, tweens. Okay, number 1 is listening log or conversation log. I thought this was cool. And then number 2 is customizing games. Example, duck, duck, goose, goose becomes Ram, Ram, Ravan. Number 3 is calling students to use the whiteboard. They love doing it and becoming the teacher. Number 4 was a podcast or YouTube channels for kids where we can showcase their work. Number 5 is using BookBox YouTube channels to do stories. Last one is parents and how to get them and engage them. 3 points. Number 1, set expectations at the start of the year. Sending the welcome letter, for example, setting the promotional guideline, housekeeping, all that. Number 2 is twice a year follow-up with parents and kind of keep that connection with them. Number 3 was involvement in the annual play and other activities. That's all. Thank you for this opportunity. Hari Om.
You're going to send this in an email to me, Shubhani ji, and Akalka.
Hari Om everyone, my name is Rajan. I'll be briefing you about the study group breakout session. Few things are all old ideas that we have been rehashing every year, but we just reinforce ourselves. Main thing in study group is to involve the participants as much as possible. That it's not a lecture, it's more like we try to involve them, try to ask them to prepare and come and give a presentation to the group. That way they learn a lot. Also, from the New York Bala Vihara group, study group, the art of presentation skills is also encouraged so that they can present it in a nice way. Like we saw the slides of Richaji. See, this is so well organized and very well presented. Some people get more information when they see data presented in a different way. Encourage participants to ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. Don't hesitate. And then we should do our research and try to answer them, not just randomly answer. Then we have this problem older than the galaxies. How to handle new people who join the study group, and there are people since several years. So we have this problem here also. Like when we do Vedanta 101, which supposed to be a beginner one, but there are people since 3 years, 4 years in that, and they start getting bored hearing the same book again and again. But we have to take the same book like self-unfoldment because there are totally newcomers who have come. So that's a challenge. We try our best to manage that. Swamiji suggested that we should have a separate group for beginners always. So right now here at least we cannot do it because of space issues, but hopefully we are going to have more space later. So we'll try to introduce a brand new group for beginners so that the others can move on to time out? Okay, just two things. A new study group that was started this year was Sampurna Gita chanting. Many people have joined it, and there's a lot of interest in that. If any other, we recommend other centers also to start Sampurna Gita. And then practices like relaxation and meditation are, people like it a lot. And some groups show videos of Gurudev and others, our Swamiji's videos also once in a while. It really helps to change the scene in a different way. That's all. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om everyone. So this is the debriefing for the J-checks. The best practices we discussed was break the ice by interacting with kids who are more vocal. Start the class with quirky questions or brain teasers so they do not feel inhibited. Animated narration of stories and their relevant takeaways are very essential. When taught through stories as a third person's perspective, somehow the lessons become more palatable. Interactive dialogue sessions are appreciated by the children. Listen to the children and then offer your feedbacks or lessons. We should be flexible and adaptable rather than come with a rigid lesson plan and teach with love and patience. Eye contact makes them feel like they were given attention. Apply Gita to their context. Watch for the feedback cues from the students via eyes, body language, etc. Ask them to share relevant examples for the topic. Show video clips and approach lessons through the back door. Speak about current events. Ask children to co-teach. Ask a lot of questions. Learn from our Swamijis and Swaminis. Read the content multiple times before coming to teach. Do activities with takeaways. Unique statement review at end of class done by the students. So you ask each child to give one sentence and it cannot be repeated by anyone else. Work as a team with co-teachers. Having kids of your own similar age, age groups where you're teaching, helps to be teachers. We as teachers should remember that we are sowing the seeds of thought to our students, not giving them moksha. And parents, how to keep them engaged. Create WhatsApp groups, parent emails to keep the connection, summarize with a quote in your emails, parent round tables to support the students, parent camps and discussions, ask kids to cross-check our lessons with parents at home. So we were given about 2 hours to discuss and 2 minutes to debrief, so thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Sejal from New York, Manhattan, and this is for Hindu culture. For parents, first of all, sending pictures, blogging, emails, and WhatsApps. Keep them engaged, keep them there. Sometimes on these communications, you can say, please initiate a conversation with your youth. Here are some questions to get you going, and offer up some questions where they can start a conversation at dinner or at home. Sometimes some of our parents haven't been in Chinmaya Mission for a long time, or this is their first year. Create a book list from our publications for the parents that relate to the class, relate to Hindu culture. We have so much to offer, and maybe that way they can also get in on the conversation. And then we should also provide some sort of programs like Seva or cooking, where we can get the parents involved into the class so that they can help with those projects. The best practices. At the beginning of a class, start with a class prompter, connect with the kids, take some time to find out about their week through creative questions up on the board. At the end with a quick, either a Gita bite, as Shubhani ji had said, or one of Gurudev's quotes. This is his year. Let's introduce Gurudev as much as we can. Bring in some videos or clips of other people talking about Gurudev. That way we can make that connection there too. Affirmation statements. Have the kids talk about what happened about them that was the best for them this week, or the best of you. Use Sanskrit in class so they become comfortable with terms from our heritage and from Hinduism. And then debriefing, have kids break up in different groups and have them debrief at the very end, rapid style. This is what we learned about, 10 things, and have the teams go against each other and make it fun. And activities that they can do. Mock trials. I think this age group is really into, the pros and cons and debating. So set up mock trials. Cahoots, they can put together cahoots, Hindu culture cahoots, and give it to the community, to the whole assembly, and have the whole, all the kids involved and all the parents involved in that. Have them write scripts for plays for their class, and maybe now they can write for the other classes, the younger classes. They may take some pride in that, and maybe they don't want to act, but they want to be directors and script writers, so they can use Hindu culture in that sense too. Icebreaker sessions and seva, giving them seva. And we are the best role models. We all need to be in class, in satsang all the time. So we should do that so that we can, be good role models for them.
Hari Om, this is Partha from Chinmaya Vrindavan. So I'm probably covering Mahabharata, which means 8 and 6. And I have to get, maybe I should just stand here. I brought a notebook, but it's not so useful. So 3 questions here. The first question was about what are the best practices we can pick up from here. The first one, not in any specific order, but the first one is that this mood swings that happens especially to teenagers, right? So how do you handle the mood swings, right? When we see the class mode dipping, snap it with like a rapid fire thing. Do something, have that routine where you just break that and just ask some questions, bring them on the board, do something special there, right? That kind of breaks that routine, right? The second point is like having this summary, break your entire topic into some sections, some logical sections that you can think of. And at every one of those interrupt points, you say, okay, what's the summary? What did we cover so far? And those things would be points where you can bring the kids to the whiteboard and make them write some of those key points. That could be a discussion point for the further subsequent section of the class. The third thing is kind of touched upon by multiple people today, which is have like a set routine. And the only way you get to set routine is you prepare. So prepare doesn't necessarily mean that you're reading about it. Prepare also means how you're going to communicate, what are the tools you have, how you coordinate with your teachers, what tools you're using, so on and so forth, right? Fourth point is always associate with something real life, contemporary, something that's happening around you, right? How does this relate to me? How does this relate to the kids? And what's the best we can bring out of that? And there could be a lot of multimedia that you can include in that section. Fifth is know your class. The class might have people with different skills. Maybe you can call them out. Some kids are good at math. There were examples about how math was used to kind of associate with Mahabharata stories in terms of yojana and the distance calculations and so on and so forth. There's about question about people who are good at art and how you can incorporate art elements and get the kids encouraged and also contribute to the rest of the class. Those are the 5 points for the best practices. Engagement specific ideas, they kind of relate with the previous point, is storytelling, bringing in like some form of play where you describe a scenario and they are playing, role playing those sections there. A rapid fire was the idea. The rapid fire can be modified so that kids are themselves signaling a rapid fire round and they are contributing in different ways. Whiteboard, using that as a tool to make kids feel like teachers. Think about reflection points. What do you think about this kind of things? What is another thing? Taking notes. There was insistence on like let kids take notes. They are at an age group where they can take notes. Make them take notes and build a story off of that. Parents' engagement, this is another interesting point, is about curriculum. Let them be a part, make them a partner. Share the curriculum, talk to them, PowerPoints, figure out how to do that. Second section is direct multimedia, sorry, not multimedia, but social engagement, where either through Google Classroom or through WhatsApp, connect with them, make them a partner in this whole process right from the very beginning. The engagement for play. So there are certain events that keep happening through the year in Chinmaya. So that's not all about kids. Whenever such an event comes in, make sure that the contextualization or the engagement is such that kids plus parent in some form or other, where they are participating in that. And they're not coming just to take pictures. The fourth point, I liked it a lot. The slogan is also quite good, is know your parent. Just like know your child, teachers should know your parent and have that association there. Thank you. That's my signal. 1 point less. But
Hari Om. So I'm Devendra, I guess I'm talking for grade 7. My job is easy because most of them I already talked about the content. The engagement and best practices are probably come together into one. We talked about first knowing your child when they comes to the class. Know their name, their hobbies, what their background is, so you can relate to them. Like if there's a US Open going on, somebody plays tennis, you can start with your class with talking about the US Open, so you're connecting with them. You can use many contemporary things that are happening to engage your kids on a one-to-one basis, and then use that as a kickoff to take off your class, and maybe connect the class to whatever is happening in the current event. Playing games, video games, using video, multimedia, all these ideas came about as other people have talked about. But also engaging the kids in preparing for the play, for the year-end play, writing, making them do the content, those kind of things are all the same ideas that we have come about. In terms of engaging the parents, a couple of things that we thought different is, as the previous speaker was saying, engage the parents in the activity within the ashram. In the ashram we have pujas every month. We can have the parents come and be the volunteers to set up the floor, or what we have the high schoolers do. Instead of high schoolers doing it, we can assign parents of grade 1, Krishna Ashtami puja will be done by them, or they'll do the things, so they become part of the community and the temple. The other way to engage parents would be the first time when we bring them here, the day 1 of Bala Vihara, when all the parents are here and captive to Ram, I think we should give them the sense of awe and inspiration that Chinmaya mission is. I mean, whenever we say awe and shock, we think about Iraq war. Those two words, you connect automatically to Iraq war. when they are walking out from here, awe and inspiration means Chinmaya Mission. That's what should come to their mind. I mean, we should tell how big Chinmaya Mission is, how many different activities are happening. It doesn't have to be a big lecture, but one-liner. I think this has to be thought about, communicated to the parents, so they feel, we shouldn't ask them, they should feel, I need to be connected to this mission. I need to be part of this. Those are the other ideas we came. So I know my 1 minute is out, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you.
Hari Om, my name is Rashmi and I'm from the Manhattan Center on the east side. I'm teaching the symbolism this year. So the 5 best practices. First, I want to thank Alkalka ji about not what to think but how to think. So we need to know what the kids are thinking and how we are going to make them think what we want them to think. So that's a very important point that is very important in the first class. And the one practice that worked, that became engaging for the parents, students and us, was a 1 minute silence. So the parents came on the first day of class. So we asked everybody, close your eyes for 30 seconds, right? What comes to your mind? 2 kids said nothing came. The parent was texting another one. Another kid was honest. I was seeing what happened. Am I going to win the soccer game? So every night the parents and the kids sit for 1 minute in silence with the children to connect at that level through what we did, the activity in class. So this goes through all 3, parent engagement, student and that. Now the Dhyan Shloka, that is normally taught by our students. They have all gone through Bala Vihara, and we try to link the curriculum from ABC Safari to Bal Bhagavatam, Bal Ramayana, symbolism. So when you reach there, you have already acquired some knowledge. How is it moving on to each step of the class? So when they come, how many of you know that today, what are we doing? First, we ask them their favorite gods, who is whose, why. And the homework for parent engagement, go ask your Ishta Devta. So they know what is an Ishta Devta. We go to temple and they ask you what is your Gotra and your mantra and your Ishta Devta. They don't know it. Go ask your grandma, go ask your nani, go ask your nana. So everybody is involved, the student, the parents, the grandparents. So the shloka is taught by the children, and by the second class, all 12 kids are standing and teaching, and we 2 teachers are sitting in the back. So that is very wonderful, and we use placards. So if they don't know the mantra, we break it down like Shantakaram, Bhujagashayanam, Padmanabham. They learned the whole big shloka. So it's going to be placards that the kids choose, and the other side has the meaning. So what is the symbolism of that in the daily life? Food and snack. Oh, auntie, we don't have any snack today. So that was the one study of Stanford of the marshmallow that we shared with them, though I know it has been debunked, but it tells about patience. So they wait till the end and we do a snack, even with the 10, 11-year-old kids. And we reinforce earlier classes to the current curriculum and what's happening in the world around them. How does this symbolism go to the external world, to their class, to their hospital where the grandma is admitted, to when they're walking a street? Are you going to look at your cell phone or look at the symbol that is out there? So that is the other thing. And the 5 new engagements, I like the 5 W's of Shubhani ji: when, where, who, what and why. Focus on the positive behavior in class and not the negative. Better balance the didactics and let the kids speak more. And also utilize the 3 yogas of Alkalka ji, which is like use the mind, then use the hands, and then use the heart, and illustrate all the concepts. So how are parents engaged? Shloka preparation, 1 minute practice, and whatever they learn in class, they have to come back and tell me, did your mother or father or nani or nanu know the answer to the question? Thank you. Hari Om. Sorry I went overboard.
Hari Om, everybody. Our debrief leader has left, so I don't have any notes, but I'm going to try my best to just recapture what we did. I'm Anandi from Chinmaya Vrindavan, and this is for grade 4. 5 best practices. We said first thing is for the teachers to connect before the class, maybe during the week before the class, to discuss the whole topic And then we break it into parts instead of having one monotonous session, and we take turns and alternate. In the class, one of the best practices would be to have the kids say, like, somebody was not there, can you please tell them what we did in class last week, and kind of have a recap moment going there. And have like a meditation session with the shell dropping meditation for focus, and that is somewhere in the middle of the class instead of in the beginning, just to turn around their focus. One of the things Shubhani ji suggested was, if the child is very hyperactive, we can give them a time to just go run around the place if that is possible, or just go outside, take a breather and come back and say it in a positive way. This is also the same thing for engagement in class as well as best practices. So that is that. And then include like an activity or something as a backup to keep it ready just in case the classroom is not going the way that we want it to go, the flow. And these are the practices for parent engagement. What we thought was, okay, popcorn reading for the kids, like we can have them do popcorn reading to engage them. And for parent engagement, they can participate in Shlokathan or Bhajanotsav or something, being the leads there. They can come to class as a chief guest and either read a story or do an activity. We can plan ahead before they come. And just participate in other ashram related activities which we can promote. Thank you.
Hari Om, my name is Shivram. I am here to debrief the 5th graders, and I kind of became the leader by default because all my co-teachers left. But anyway, I think some of the ideas and the ways to keep the class steady and going forward is engage the parents. That was the biggest challenge that everybody faced. One of the ideas is to meet them often, meet them as somebody else said earlier, meet them often, make them engaged in the temple activities and the ashram activities. That way we can have a more, the attendance of the class improves and the parents stay engaged. The other one is always talk recap before you start the next topic, recap, and always pose the question how it relates to their daily life, how can they relate it to what they learned the last class into their daily life. The next one is role playing, have the kids play some of the roles or the characters that you tell them in the stories or the whatever topic you have. See how would they react in that kind of a role. And one of the others, I don't know, 4th, 5th graders seem to have a lot of high energy, high disruptors. So the suggestion was to make them a teacher for a short period of time, and you become that disruptor or kid, and see how they handle the stress. Some of the other ideas that people have already talked, and we generally what we do if there is a festival coming, we ask the kids to talk to their parents, document their traditions, and they have to come back into the next class and actually tell them what is the unique traditions or customs their families follow in their households. One of the things that I suggested was, I think Swamiji, maybe it would be a good idea to visit the classes once in a while so that we can keep the kids also on kind of a tenterhooks. And the other one is Jeopardy games, video games, and the audio. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hari Om everyone. I'm Malati from Chinmaya Vrindavan. I'm here for the 3rd graders. For the first 5 best practices for the kids I think mostly everybody has briefed about how to teach the children about what they are going to teach for that particular year. It is through ways of games, and we cannot keep as Swamiji and other ones suggested. We cannot keep teaching them, but we can teach them only through our activities and games for the kids. As far as we are concerned, we should have our own thoughts and ideas before we go and give it to the kids. So we should be prepared for all types of questions, and we should have all the answers ready for the kids for them to know. And generally for the parents' involvements, we do it through email communications and WhatsApp groups, and other ideas, as others suggested, we can follow it through our normal course in the day-to-day activities, and we can make them involve. We can make them to just celebrate our religious festivals in the first place, and we can bring them all together to celebrate them in the ashram, or in the respective Vrindavan, in the respective Chinmaya mission centers. So thank you for.
Hari Om, I'm nervous. So I was supposed to be here with Ramya ji. So this is collective idea from all of us. We should come prepare for the class from the home. We should discuss with the teacher in the middle of the class and right before the class, like the day, that what we are exactly going to teach in the class, and we can prepare a Google Sheet, something kind of, so that we have a plan what we are going to teach each week, and also we can put, if possible, little bit timings for the each activities, like 15 minutes we are doing a story or 10 minutes shloka, and so that will be, make us feel organized in the class. Then in terms of for the parent, we make sure we can request to the parents, they, while driving back to home, if they can ask their kids what we did, means what we taught in the class, so that it will stay in their mind. And before they come in the class, if parents can't, ask them to repeat, so that when they come in the next class, they come prepare and they will be ready to learn the new chapter. One of our teachers, in terms of activity, we have to keep it very interactive, in terms of we should know, we should know the kids. The day we should see them, and we should have some idea how was the day, like if that kid is happy or sad, so that accordingly we can talk to them, and we can have expectation as per how their day went. So one of the teacher, she gave the idea, like she for the Hanuman Chalisa, they teach 3 shlokas, and they record it and they put it in the WhatsApp group, and they request parent to hear out, because when kids hear their own chanting, they have more motivation to repeat in excitement. So, and other than that, lot of physical activities, yoga, meditation. Thank you so much.
Hari Om. My name is Lakshmi. I'm from Queens Long Island Center. We teach students kindergarten and first grade. So these are some of the youngest with a lot of energy. We have a lot of variation. So the 5 best practices, one coming from Shibani ji, love them, and love them. That's first. Second is we have to have a structure to the class, and for that this has been said over and over. We have to prepare as teachers way before and have a opening prayer, ending prayer, a very kind of strict structure because kids expect that. One of the suggestions one of the teachers made is not always make them raise their hand and only answer. Sometimes make it collaborative, like, what did God give you? So, each one would say different. So this way they also get a chance to relax and answer. Then the next one is have a surprise activity to bring focus back, because very often, we see slowly, attention fade. So maybe have a jumping jack, something jump up, sit down, something very quick, but bring their attention back. And the last one for the best practice was engaging them, like ask them to put the name in the story. Last time it was like the prince. What was the prince's name? Our kids said Prince Chicky. So Prince Chicky became King Chicky, and the kids had so much fun just saying Chicky. So they get involved, they are part of the story in that sense. And for Ramayan, they can act parts out and that can be part of the story. And for engaging the kids, have them take turns by leading the bhajans, have them recap the previous class. Then this was brought up by one teacher, this forming the link or chain game, which a kid introduces himself or herself and says what they like best. And then the next child will introduce, this is my friend, and he likes this best, and I am so and so. So you have to actually pay attention and remember, and this goes on forming a chain. And every day vary this, not by just what they like, but like what fruit they like, or what happened on Saturday. So having different questions, but playing the same link chain. It's a nice way to engage children of this age group. Then filling in the blanks for shlokas. I've never done it, but it's supposed to be really good. After they learn the whole shloka, you say part of it and then be silent. They have to remember and say the rest of the blank. And then for Likita Japa, doing a big Om inside a plastic sleeve, and they actually write it the right way every time, saying the Om and how they feel. And the last one was Daksha and Aram, that's like, attention and relax. So if they are not off a frame, like, one is going off, one is sleeping, so bring that into. And then engaging the parents. 3 ways we had was in WhatsApp, we usually send a picture or a video, so, and a very short message, so parents look at that and they have something to talk to the kids about. And the other one was ask the parents to participate in setting up one of the assemblies, like for Diwali. And last time in our meeting, the suggestion was 1 teacher with 4 parents, and hopefully this will involve more parents. And the last one was have the parents come into the class for a certain period of time, maybe like 10 minutes, every 2 months, so they see what's happening and what works for their kids, what doesn't, so we get parent feedback immediately that we can adjust and do it. Hari Om, thank you.
I want you to send this in an email.
Hari Om everyone, I'm Malti and I'm part of this center. I'm volunteering for Shishu Vihar class. I'm greatly honored to be part of this because I benefited a lot. I'll quickly go over what we discussed. So our motto is baby steps to divinity. The unique thing about this class is parents also sit in this class. So our goal is to make eye contact with the parents and but teach at the child's level, like use simple words, connect with the children at every stage. Because kids love structure and repetition, keep consistency through and make changes through the month and tie it to the festival or events that are happening within the ashram and outside. It's easy for kids at this age to get distracted, but I think the teachers have to stay calm in this class. If anybody wants to leave the room, it's totally okay, but keep them engaged. So it's a mindset that we as teachers should have to keep the class very flexible and learn something new for every class. For us, it's very like treat each kid the same way, no favoritism, because some kids are more active than the others. Of course, all of us know that mother comes first and then the father, and only after that comes Acharya. So it's very important that we teach parents at this level, and then parents emulate. Our goal would be to nurture and strengthen the bond between the parents and kids, so involve them in crafts, make the parents also do the crafts so that children are connecting more with them, talking to them more, etc. So some engagement activities were giving kids, like giving parents simple homework. Like we gave parents like what was Ganesha's vehicle. All of us know it as Mushika, but we wanted parents to find out actual name of Mushika. That was an assignment for me too. The next few things I'll quickly run over are keep the lesson plans very structured and organized and engage and tie it to upcoming festivals. And we could even do field trips within auditorium, like for Ganesh Chaturthi, we could just take a break within the class, come here, show Ganesha right here in the ashram. We also have some stories which involve famous stories like stone soup, etc., where we could ask the kid to come bring any vegetable that they want to add, keep it more interactive. Voice modulation, use a lot of props in our class was something that all of us, our teachers agreed. And we also keep engaging them with sensory play, sometimes through touch, and obviously yoga and a lot of action in the class, standing bhajans, sitting bhajans. Some of these also help kids build their fine motor skills. The last one was because parents are there throughout the year for this class, rotating amongst parents to teach certain sections of the class every month. Thank you everyone. Hari Om.
Hari Om everyone, my name is Karthik. I'm the coordinator for Queen's Long Island Bala Vihara, and I'm representing the coordinators group. So our discussion was more focused around parent engagement. So most of the points have been covered. There are some that we have actually made a note of. So apart from having the parents satsang, the other options that could be offered are guided meditation and yoga. The other one is have parents participate in class. We can also have them summarize the teachings, share the debrief. And then the third point was creating an committee for festivals, which many of us have actually suggested. And in these organizing committee, we can have one teacher take the lead to kind of organize the entire event with 3 or 4 parents participating. Have a parent survey conducted, probably every quarter, every 6 months, so that we understand what needs to be done. And one point that we covered was around use of social media, not only just for engaging the parents more, but also to kind of increase our reach. Is capture short videos of parents kind of sharing their experience, or with kids actually talking more about Bala Vihara, and also tagging all the parents that we have in social media. Thank you.
Whatever you discussed here in an email to Shubhani ji, Akalka ji and me. What we'll do is we'll combine everything and publish it. We'll send it. We will do that. I'll put it, we'll send it.